All right, so we're in the next portion of this review. So I'm going forward with making three-part reviews. This is the second part of the review, and this is going to be programming this locomotive specifically for the Protothrottle. So locomotives can vary quite widely based on the programming available from the manufacturer. As if you've seen the original review for this locomotive, this is for the CP RS18-u, that there are some differences compared to like some of the regular locomotives I might have had already, like the Scaletrains SD40-2. So I'm going to zoom in here, and we're going to go over some of those differences. All right, so I just shut down the locomotive, so you guys don't have to hear that in the background. As pleasant as it may be. So one of the things I want to go over is how I have some of my functions set up for my locomotives and what I actually end up using. So I just need to pull up one of my documents here. And I'll put this up in the display so you guys can see what I'm looking at here. But this is my Protothrottle CV and function settings. This is critical for me to be able to program this stuff. So this is going to show me how I set up the locomotive, how I set up the programming, how my Protothrottle is going to activate, stuff like that. So all of these things are going to get changed. So before I program any locomotive for the Protothrottle, I save the original file, the factory file, as it came, because you can always go back to the beginning, and that never hurts. So to make our plan, we need to make the F0 headlight directional or non-directional. And this is pretty simple. All you have to do is go into the Log Programmer and add F0, and then add a different function for the reverse. So F0 will be front only, non-directionally sensitive. And then for the rear headlight, I have that set up for F22. Okay, so those are going to be the first two steps. Next thing we need to talk about is F4 for dynamic brakes. So that's already set up in here to be the same. One thing that is not the same is F5 should be class lights. One thing I want to point out again is with this locomotive, the class lights are going to be on-off for the white, on-off for the green, and then on-off for the red. Whereas Scaletrains and some other manufacturers like Bowser might have a little bit different, where Scaletrains is each time you push it, it selects a different one. So if you want to have Rapido and Scaletrains locomotives with the class lights on matching, you may have to play around with it a little bit to get them all the same with your throttle. Or in the ESU programming, select it differently. I don't know how to do that. I'm not going to get that far into it. So the next thing is F6 is front ditch lights. The biggest difference is that the F6 is going to be non-directional for us. So right now, if we fire this guy up, I actually don't know if this is even a thing. This might not even be a problem. If we fire this guy up, F6 in reverse, and they stay on, so it doesn't matter. The next thing is I want to set up F8. So let's see, F7. I have that as F7 is rear ditch lights, so we won't be using that. And that'll be dim. We won't need that. So F7 will have nothing because we have a headlight dimmer. That is going to be F12 is going to be the front dim headlight. F13 is the rear dim light. We'll get to that in a second. F8 is sound on or off. F9 is drive hold. F10 is brake. That's the same as it is in here, and that's perfect. And then F12 is going to be front dim. And they're going we need to make a plan for braking and speed. So we're going to reduce the top speed of this locomotive probably by a pretty good bit because it was moving pretty quickly. And then obviously with the Protothrottle you have 8 detents. I program all my locomotives to be between 58 and 61 miles an hour. And so this is probably going to have the same top speed so I can run it with anything. And then we need to activate some stuff while in consist. So activate in consist. That's going to be F10, F9, F8, F4, F5. Acceleration momentum, so CV03 should be 44.8 seconds to full speed. And then decel, so CV04 should be 228.48 seconds. So depending on the decoder and the version of loc sound that you have in your decoder, you should be able to adjust that to within the hundredth of a second. That's going to be a pretty important thing. That's going to come in very handy because you can make these locomotives brake at the same pace. You can make them speed up and decelerate at the same pace. That's going to be pretty important. And then I also have on here for DPU locomotives. I don't think I'm going to be using this in DPU, but not F5 for F12 and not F5 for F13. So that means the ditch lights aren't going to come on. So the headlights may come on, but the headlights won't come on, but that way I don't trigger those functions while I'm in consist. So with that said, I'm going to go through, program this. I'm going to see if I can do a screen recording so you guys can follow along with me. All right, so here you can see kind of what I've been working with as far as where I'm going to program this stuff. So here's the front. Here's what the Protothrottle action is. This is how you're going to select what's going to happen. And then here is the function as it applies to it. So, and then here's what it has, that function has control of. So something else I want to do is I want to have that spitter valve. I want to have that set up so that operates, maybe when I have class lights on. So F5 is going to have class lights and spitter valve. And that's what I call tucking. So I don't have it on every locomotive, and each locomotive can be different. What activates extra sounds? But I want to have the spitter valve, and we're not going to play with switching mode. That will turn off. And flange squeal, we'll put on rear dim is what I usually have that on. So F13 is going to also have flange squeal. I have that set up on my Walthers FP7s that have loc sound 5 in them, because that way as I'm going into a station, I can turn on the rear dims. You won't even see them on, and the whole train will be squealing its way in. It's a beautiful thing. So we're going to close this out. We're going to go over to loc sound 5. We're going to stop, go to decoder. Now you can see we have F3 here, which is flange squeal. We could have that on or off. That's dependent on you. But remember, we're going to change that to F13 for rear dim. And we don't actually want that on while F13 is in consist, while we're in consist. So we can change that later. But let's see, we have F10, F9, F8. I'm marking these off on my paper as I'm going through. F4 and F5, there we go. And then F17, that's the brake wheel, we don't need that. F16, that's the steam generator, don't need that. F20 is the spitter valve, don't need that. And then we have that updated. Now, each step of the way, we're going to go ahead and save this to our locomotive, because that way it's less it has to try with each addition. This just seems to work out better for me. Nice and smooth, fewer issues. Now we're going to go to, let's bring up this again. Brake value set to 230. So we can go back over here. So go to braking. We're going to set all of it to 230, I believe. For the moment, we're going to set it to 230 because that's just easier. And then what we'll do is we'll come back and we'll adjust it for the dynamic brake. So when we activate dynamic brakes, one thing we can do when we get to this guy, when we get to using F4 later on, we can actually have this set up so that dynamic brakes will activate and brake differently. So you'll hear the dynamic brake fan come on and it'll activate a different brake function, so it has less of an effect. So as you're coming downhill and you use the brake, it'll actually work differently. I haven't gotten that far yet with my locomotives, but we'll get there eventually. So then we're going to write this value right here real quick. The less you write, the faster it goes. And this computer works significantly quicker. This is my newer desktop. I bought rebuild from a friend. Works significantly faster. So driving characteristics now. Here's your trim. Acceleration time should be 44.8. So we can actually go like this. It should be, set to 50. This should be basically maxed out. And then that's it. So we're going to save that yet again. And then when we're done editing this, and we're saving this to the locomotive by going up here and clicking this button, we're saving it, we're writing decoder data. Eventually we'll resave this. We'll save as a Protothrottle file, not as a original locomotive file. So that way we have both files available. If I go to run on another person's layout, I can do that. Next, we're going to go to function outputs. So aux2 is going to be dim light. This will be for F13 later on. We'll have to enable that. So or here, headlight here. So brightness, we're going to set this down to like a level 5. That's going to be at LED mode. That's going to be not controlled by a dimmer, dimmable headlight. And then front light 2 here is going to be the same thing. Move this all the way down to a 5. And that way the F12 and F13 will be ready for us. And that's the front and rear headlights. So we'll have front light 2 and rear light 2 ready to go. No delay, dimmable headlight, fade in, fade out. That's all we really have to change for lighting. So now we're going to go to the function settings. I don't think we have anything that we're really going to change here. And now we're going to go to function mapping. And this is where the fun begins. Before you get too crazy, we're going to update the decoder once more. So here stuff can get kind of nuts, out of control a little bit. So here you can see it says forward. We're just going to eliminate that. So it doesn't matter what direction it's in, F0 is on, then that front headlight's going to be on. And for this, we're going to get rid of direction. We're going to get rid of F0. We're going to go down to F22. F22 is going to be on. So F0 controls the front light, F22 controls the rear light, and we're going to go down here to F12 real quick. This is going to be front light 2, not the rear light, that's dimmer. F13 is going to be rear light 2, just like so. This is going to be acceleration switching mode dimmer. We don't need that. We can turn that off. And again, because we already saved these files, or this everything as it was, we already saved that as CP1825OG original. Then now that we're set, so cross out. We've got the headlight here done. Front ditch light, there's nothing to change. It's non-directional already. We've got F12 and F13. So F5 is going to be class lights and splitter valve. F5. So we're going to get rid of the Doppler horn. Get rid of that. And then we're going to put on the slow splitter valve. Next, we're going to do class lights for number 5. We might not be able to do that. Actually, here, class lights. Here, we can just select both. So M423 class lights front and rear and slow spitter valve, all under the same thing. And we can turn the class lights off over here, unselect it, exit out. We're not using F11 for anything. So we've got the front ditch light is taken care of, the class lights and splitter valve are taken care of. F7, what is that? F7 here is the dim the headlights. We don't need that. We're not using that for anything. The only thing we would use that for is if we had rear ditch lights. So with all that saved, clock out of it, click off of it. And here you can actually see F21 through F24 are silly sounds. So we're going to write that down, 21 through 24, silly sounds. So after we reprogram this, we're going to set this off here. This should only take a minute. After we check to verify all this, what we're going to do is we're actually going to play those silly sounds and see what happens. But before we do that, I want to cross-reference this again to make sure there's nothing that we're missing. F4 is dynamic brakes. Nothing above F14. So we shouldn't have too much to worry about there because F14, we've got nothing up here. So F14 is HEP, or head and power. Steam generator is F16, handbrake ratchet. Actually, you know what? We're going to unselect this guy here. And then we're going to go to F8. We're going to go handbrake ratchet. And now that I'm thinking about it, function outputs. aux3. I wonder what the number board lights are, because I don't want those to be on all the time. I wonder. So F19 are the number boards. And F18 are the ground lights. I didn't see ground lights. That doesn't mean they're there. They're not there. I just didn't see them. So all we have to do to see what that is F18 here is aux3. And F19 is aux1. So we're going to set those up under F8, aux1, 1, and then aux3. Because we're not going to be really using these guys here. Whoop, oh. There we go. So I only want those on if the locomotive is in operation. If it's just chilling on the layout, I don't want drawing anything. So we're going to set that decoder data one more time. And then we're going to turn over to the locomotive and see exactly how this is turning out. Awesome. Let's move over and take a look. All right. And on we go. So I can just barely make out the ground lights. Let me turn off some more lighting here. Maybe we can see them better. I can dim this guy a little bit more. And now I can definitely see them. So they are certainly on there and they are certainly working. There we go. So as you can see, when I fired the locomotive up, those lights came on. So the next thing we really want to take a look at is make sure that our lights are working appropriately. Okay, so my locomotive is in reverse. So as I back up, the front headlights stay on. So go forward. See F6 for the ditch lights. Let's bring this forward a little bit. I don't like it being so far back. Whoa, oh, it's right. Forgot. I have to turn the brake on now. Thankfully, the wires caught it. Okay. There we go. Let's see. I might back this up just a little bit. There we go. So, flash lights, F5. Every time the light comes on, the spitter valve should come on. Or not. Spitter valve's on, but we have no class lights. Okay, so the class lights are directional. So I need to fix that somehow because they shouldn't be directional. So I'll grab another piece of paper, make some more notes. All right, so we've got our sound, we've got our brake, we've got the headlights. So let's try F12 for front dim. So that shouldn't turn off the ditch lights. But you know what? It won't. That actually won't matter too much. So if we have the ditch lights on and we turn on the front dim headlight, it won't matter because you wouldn't have the ditch lights on, so that's not a bad thing to have. Second of all, on the Protothrottle, it would be dim headlights, bright headlights, and then bright headlights plus ditch lights. So that won't make a difference at the end of the day. Next, we want to check the rear headlights. And we're just going to check with our hand here real quick. Yep, those are on dim. And then F11 should be rear bright. Let's see here. 22, I forgot I updated that. So F22 should be rear bright. F11 has no function. So let's see.
Good day, welcome to the Great White North Canadian Corner. I'm Bob McKenzie, this is my brother Doug. How's it going, eh?
So there's one of the silly sounds. So when you turn on the rear or the rear headlight, you're gonna get that sound every time.
Good day, welcome to the Great White North Canadian Corner. I'm Bob McKenzie, this is my brother Doug. How's it going, eh?
I want to redo that for you guys so you can hear it with the microphone there. So here's the rear. When you turn on the rear headlight, every time with this locomotive, this is what you're gonna hear.
Good day, welcome to the Great White North Canadian Corner. I'm Bob McKenzie, this is my brother Doug. How's it going, eh?
Okay, you guys at Rapido really made that one special. I'm gonna leave that there. So whenever you turn on the rear headlight, you're gonna get that. Let's hear what F21 is. I kind of want to find functions to tuck these sound files into because I just think that'd be fun. So here's another sound file. This is F23.
Well, I see by the clock on the wall that it's time to leave you. One and all, goodbye, goodbye, so long, so long, farewell, farewell, adieu, adieu, be good, stay well, bye-bye, keep warm, relax, and eat, stay loose, and you won't feel now my motion, goodbye till when we meet again.
All right, so that was F24 right there. I think I'm going to set that to the front dimmer because I think that is awesome. Rapido does a really amazing job with this stuff. That's too cool. One thing I would like to do is turn on the function for that ratchet for him to power off. So let's get back to the computer and see if we can figure this out. All right, so we have a couple of things to fix here. First, we want to take F24, so it's Silly Sound 4, and put that on the front dimmer. So F12 is front dim, so Silly Sound slot 4. So when you use the front dim, that's going to come on. That's just awesome. Next, we're going to set up let's see. Front dim turns off the headlights. We're not worried about that. Directional class lights. I don't know if there's a way for me to change that. I'm not seeing anything. Because it's already got the, let's see F5 here. It's already non-directional. It's already ignoring all that. So I'm not sure what I'd be able to change. So that might not be something we can change on this thing. I can call Rapido and find out. For non-directional class lights. Next, we want to take a look at the power off ratchet. So handbrake ratchet, not F8. So what I think we might do, since we're not using F11, we're going to change this to F8 off. And then put the ratchet over here. Handbrake ratchet off. Not F8. We'll take it off here. Cool. We're going to try that and see what happens. So that should be in there. Let's get over to the locomotive and take a peek and see what happens. So it just came on right away because it's not getting used. Now it should do it when I turn off F8, so I'm shutting down the locomotive for the day. Now I'm hoping that it doesn't keep doing it. So it sounds like it's going to do it whenever you fire it up, which, hey, it is what it is. But I want to find out if we can reduce the volume on it. So I'm probably going to reduce the volume on this whole thing later on, but that'll be a much simpler thing. If you guys are interested in seeing more information on that, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to leave you guys with this little nugget. Thank you guys for watching Shawn's Trains. I hope this video helped you guys out. If you want to see this in action with the Protothrottle and you guys can really see how it all comes through, let me know. Otherwise, this is just a programming. This should react exactly how I have my Protothrottle programmed for. There shouldn't be any issues. I've done this enough that I'm confident in saying that. So when I take this to run it, no problem should be had. I got to get my receiver here so I can start playing around with it and I can bench test it and do a little bit more. But that's about it. The only thing is just verify it with the throttle, but everything should be set up. So until next time, thank you for watching Shawn's Trains. Thank you to Superior Scenics for sponsoring them. Show them some love. Check them out at superiorschenics.com. And don't forget, check them out coming up for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. They got a huge sale up to 40% off on select products at superiorschenics.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Good day, welcome to the Great White North Canadian Corner. I'm Bob McKenzie, this is my brother Doug. How's it going, eh?
Take care, everybody.